Hey guys, Alchemist here. So welcome to the weekly market forecast episode 3, where we are going to be having a look at AUDUSD, EURUSD, GBPUSD, as well as US30. So apologies for not having a video uploaded last weekend, and I will make sure that I do not miss any further updates in the future. So we'll start off on AU and we'll have a look at where we're currently trading. So if you've been watching any of my recent videos, you should be quite aware of the supply and demand zones that we're currently trading within. So this here is the demand zone. I'll just draw it to the bottom of this wick here. Drag it across to the right. You can see we've actually just tapped into this zone one more time and we've had a reaction away from it and we haven't yet closed below. Our current supply zone is still this one here, as this zone here has not yet fulfilled its purpose in setting a lower low. So this one here is the supply zone. And that's all we need to do on the weekly time frame. So if we jump down to the daily, we have been monitoring this level for quite some time, and I did actually have this as a targeted low for in my previous outlooks. And we were expecting to break below here, and we've actually wicked below under this here. This was our current daily low, but we get to actually close. So the daily break of structure currently, based on the rules I've created, is this one here. So this here is our daily boss, leaving the highest point above here as our daily high. And this remains as our daily low. I'm not yet going to move it to this one, as currently this looks on this time frame to be a sweep. And until we have a body close below, the low will actually remain at this level here. So we need to remain systematic in everything that we do so that we can scale and progress linearly. So that's the daily low. And then we'll jump onto the 4 hour. Now this here, the daily boss, this was also our 4 hour boss at the time, therefore leaving this as our 4 hour low. However, on the 4 hour, we have actually had a break below. So once we had this candle closing below, we can actually now move our 4 hour break of structure to this point here. So this here was our 4 hour boss, leaving this up here as our 4 hour high. And based on the amount of pips that this has pulled back, we can't yet determine this to be our 4 hour low just yet. So we don't actually have our whole 4 hour range at the moment, but what we can start to do is start to sort of analyze price and think where it could potentially be heading next. So we did have this here as a targeted low, and what we can see here is that once we've tapped into there was quite a lot of liquidity, which has pushed price back up. Ideally, if this does become our 4 hour low, we do want to see some sort of pullback into a better priced zone. Now, it doesn't necessarily need to be pulling all the way back into premium, but a pullback would be nice to see. And what we can identify here is we have quite a significant POI in these buy to sell weeks. So this here was demand. Price has pushed into this demand zone and left some buy to sell wicks on the other side. So this here would be a very nice supply zone that we could potentially be taking shorts from in the future. And what we've actually got just here is some liquidity to be targeting just below the zone as well. So there's some liquidity to be swept. So what would be great to see on AU in the coming week would be a tap into here, where there will be some orders, so there will be some sort of reaction at this point. Whether or not we will see a lower low completed, or whether it's just going to be a catalyst for a pullback to then allow price to come back up into this zone, is yet to be seen. But ideally, shorts positioned from here will be the best sort of entry point to be looking at to potentially be targeting this low once we do start to see those catalysts for pullback on the way back down start to fail. Now, we do also need to be aware of the extreme at all times. So price could definitely be coming all the way back up to here. This was news related here, and I don't see this imbalance being filled just as of yet. I don't believe we've got enough buy side liquidity to be actually targeting this zone above here. But ideally, if we were to come here and then see some 15-minute realignment, this would be a great place to be looking for shorts. So let's just keep an eye on this level here for the coming week to make sure we can actually capitalize on some trades. So let's now have a look at EU. So on EU, what we can identify here, if we just drop a horizontal line, so if we just drop one here like this, and have a look to the left, we did identify this zone in the last weekly outlook that I did, and we can identify it here as this POI, being our current demand that price is trading from. So let me just change this across to a demand, and I'll zoom out because this is quite some distance away. Perfect. So that's where we can see prices currently tapping within. And now on EU as opposed to AU, the most recent supply has actually now set a new lower low. So we can identify this one here as our supply zone, which we see has just actually been mitigated, which is good to see as well. We can identify that as a supply, and that's our demand on the weekly. Now let's jump down to the daily time frame, sorry. So on the daily, we still have the same breakup structure as before as well. So that one was this one right here. So this was our daily boss, leaving this as our daily high. And this remains to be our daily low. So just like we saw on AU, we haven't yet had a body close below here. So I cannot rule the daily low, the new daily breakup structure until we do have that body close below. So as of now, this remains to be our daily low, leaving our daily range to be from this high to this low. However, we don't use premium and discount on the daily time zone. So let's just get rid of that for now and go down to the 4 hour. Now on the 4 hour, the same level for our breakup structure was to apply as well. However, just like we saw on AU, this would have therefore been our 4 hour low, and we have actually had a body close below here. So at the time, once we had this body close below, this would have been our 4 hour low. So this would have been our 4 hour breakup structure. And once we identified that as our 4 hour breakup structure, we would have had this up here as our 4 hour high. Now what we can see is the 4 hour high here has actually now had a body close above. So therefore this becomes our new 4 hour breakup structure. We can get rid of this one that we've just drawn, and we can identify our 4 hour low as the lowest point below this line here, i.e. this one here. So this would be our 4 hour low. And then up here, after we've had quite a significant pullback, let's just check the pullback, how many pips we've pulled back here. Just from this high to this low, if this is going to qualify for structure. On EU, just because it does actually move a little bit less than AU, I am actually happy to run 80 pips on the 4 hour. Therefore, this here would have actually been a structure point. So this would have been our 4 hour high. And then we've obviously seen this candle closing above. Therefore, we've actually got another 4 hour boss here. So this here would be the 4 hour boss, making the lowest point below that line as our 4 hour low. Okay. And then this would have been our 4 hour high. Now, what do we see here? We see the low being broken, and us having multiple candles closing below. Therefore, this now becomes our new 4 hour breakup structure. We can get rid of this one, and then we can simply identify the highest point above here as our 4 hour high. And let's have a look at how many pips we've pulled back here. Yeah, so more than 80 pips. We've pulled back 90 pips from here. Therefore, we can actually identify this one here as our 4 hour low. So therefore we can drop our range on the 4 hour now. So this would be the range that we'd be looking at, and we'd be identifying some POIs on this level. So we can see here we had this demand zone, which once interacted with, we've again left these buy to sell weeks, which we can see we've actually tapped into on Friday. So whether this was the whole of the pullback or if we're going to be coming up into a higher zone is yet to be seen. But on EU, it does like to retrace to at least 50% or EQ on the 4 hour most of the time. So we do have this extreme up here. But another thing to be careful of as well is we can just sort of take this whole supply range. Given how high up in premium this one is, price doesn't have to be retracing all the way up to here. It doesn't have to be retracing to premium at all, but it is a nice to have, especially with EU. So potentially what we could be looking to see is a tap into the supply range. It doesn't necessarily have to be this candle here. And then we'd want to be waiting for 15-minute realignment to then be taking continuation shorts to be targeting this daily low and hopefully actually setting a close below there. Something else we could see is that we could actually remain bullish for a little while. We could take this higher. We would have a lot of liquidity resting here and in here as well. And if we look at this here as the pivot demand zone, we can see that we've interacted and we've left this supply. So potentially we could be targeting this zone before turning bearish again, to then again be targeting here. My higher time frame narrative for EU is still definitely shorts. I do believe we still have some bullish momentum in the meantime, given how we've reacted once we've interacted with this demand. How much bullish momentum is going to remain is going to be yet to be seen. But if we do get a 15-minute realignment in here, this could potentially be a nice place for a short setup. Otherwise, we would be waiting to see a zone further up into premium on the daily. Let's have a look at GU. So looking at GU on the weekly, we can see that we've actually come into this demand and we've actually just swept the low of it, but we haven't yet closed below. So we can identify this one here as a liquidity sweep, but we haven't yet set a body close below. So this is currently still the demand level that we need to highlight on the weekly time frame. Now this is just to me this is just for me to show you that this is a liquidity sweep here, but we don't mark anything on the weekly time frame except for one single demand and one single supply zone. So we're going to remain consistent, and I'm going to be getting rid of that one there. And the supply zone that we want to be identifying is this one here, which has led to that lower low. So this is the weekly supply. Make it a bit darker. So this is the weekly supply, and this one here is the weekly demand. Having a look at the daily. So on the daily, let's have a look here. We've not yet actually closed below on this time frame here as well. So this is just wick below, just like we saw on AU and on EU. So the most recent daily breaker structure, let's have a look at this one here. Yep, that's quite significant, 183 pips. We're going to be using this one here as our most recent daily breaker structure. Therefore, leaving this here as our daily high. And then this will still remain to be our daily low up and until we do get another body close below this level here. Given how large this range is, I'm just going to be pushing it a little bit to the left just to keep the charts nice and neat once we do drop down to the lower time frames. So on the 4 hour, let's have a look if we've printed below. So again, yes, so this would have been our 4 hour low after we had this breaker structure here, which was over 150 pips. This would have been the 4 hour breaker structure. So this would have been the 4 hour low. Let's just actually follow price to see if there is another breaker structure above here. So this here would have been the 4 hour breaker structure. This therefore would have been the 4 hour high. Once we see the 4 hour high failing here, this becomes our new 4 hour breakup structure. Just keep it consistent and get rid of the previous one. Let's have a look at the pullback here, these two candles. So from the high here to the low, yep, that's 97 pips. So this would have been structure point. Then we've had another 4 hour boss to the upside here. Therefore, this would have been the 4 hour low. Then this low actually fails as well. So this there would have been the 4 hour breakup structure. And up here, this would have been the 4 hour high. Okay, and then let's have a look at this pullback. Yeah, so it's greater than 100 pips. So this would have been at the time our 4 hour low. So we can just mark that as our 4 hour low. And then what ends up happening here is we get a new 4 hour breakup structure. So this is our 4 hour boss. Need to move the 4 hour high to the highest point above our newly marked 4 hour boss line. So that's this point here. Remove the previous one. And then similarly to AU, we haven't yet had a significant pullback. Actually, this one on this time frame here, this is 96 pips. I'm happy to run with that for GU. So let's mark this one out here. This would be our 4 hour low. Therefore, our 4 hour range for GU would be from here to here. So on the daily time frame, we're bearish. On the 4 hour time frame, we're bearish. So let's just be looking for shorts that we could potentially be marking up from nicely formed POIs. So we can have a look up here. We've got these buy to sell wicks here, which would have had interaction if we look to the left with this. Now, was that a significant zone? Because we always want to be looking as to what that's interacted with as well. So this would have been coming out of here, which was a very nice supply zone in the past. This would have been the supply. Push down, we've actually swept the liquidity below here as well. Okay, and then prices push back into here, creating an interaction zone, pushing up higher, sweeping the liquidity above this candle before leading to a 4 hour breakup structure. So this is a very nice POI here. We could also be marking it up as the buy to sell wicks from here to here. However, we can see that this level here has actually mitigated that. And let's also mark the extreme because that's always going to be a valid point as well. And so what we could potentially be seeing is prices now started to have that pullback back up into premium of the 4 hour leg. Ideally, what we would like to see is for price to be coming a little bit higher into this zone. And we'd be wanting to wait for the 15-minute time frame to realign bearish as well before potentially taking a short to take out this low here. Whether it's going to be from this level or whether price has enough bullish momentum to be pushing us higher up into premium is yet to be seen. We could also be tapping into that zone, liquidating and potentially even going a little bit higher up into a level up here. So this is still within our daily range because if we're yet to print another candle below here, we're still actually within the daily range from all the way up here. So if we were to look at the daily range in terms of premium and discount, Okay, this would be a very nicely priced zone on the daily, which has mitigated this supply zone here as well. So we could potentially be seeing still yet higher prices for GU. So what that would look like potentially would be an interaction at these points. Essentially, these two would be catalysts for pullback on the higher time frame before tapping into here and filling in all this imbalance. Now, GU does like to react and fill up imbalance a lot more than AU does as well. So we could be potentially seeing this sort of setup on GU. But again, just like on the other two pairs, my overall higher time frame narrative is still shorts. We can be playing counter trend longs to be able to get us up into these better price POIs. There are going to be specific rules as to where we should be targeting, where we should be entering, and where we should be exiting, which will all be laid out for you in the course. So if you are interested in joining, please comment below and I will send you the link. Otherwise, let's jump on and have a look at US30. So US30 on the weekly time frame, let's identify the supply and demand levels that we're currently trading from. So if we look here and then look to the left, we can identify this POI here, which has had interaction to the left and has resulted in this higher high, higher than this high here. Okay, so this is the current demand zone that we're tapping into. And this here, I wouldn't be identifying this as the supply that we're currently trading from, because as we can see, we've actually broken it. So up and until we actually broke above, this would have been the valid supply zone, but we'd need to then look up here, what we're tapping into, and look to the left. And we do have these buy to sell wicks here. So this would be the current supply zone that price is trading within. And this is the current demand zone. We can get rid of this and let's label this one correctly. And this is the supply, this is the demand, and that's all that we need to do on the weekly time frame. Now looking at the daily, so you can see here we've had quite a big reaction once we've tapped into this weekly demand zone. And unlike the other pairs, we have actually had a body close below. So this is actually the daily breakup structure for this pair here, leaving the daily high to be the highest point above this line. Quite clearly this one here, this being our daily high. And let's have a look at this pullback. So this is only 36 pips. So we definitely cannot yet confirm that this is going to be our daily low. We could yet see lower prices before having another pullback. Potentially there will be something in this week which we have just tapped into. Whether or not this is going to be enough to be able to push us up higher into premium on this time frame is yet to be seen. But again, on the daily, we're not going to be marking out POIs or anything like that. Just the boss high and low, and we cannot yet mark our low. So that's all we can do on the daily time frame. And looking at the 4 hour, so if we look at this reaction here, okay, that's only 39.4 pips. Again, given how small it is, I'm not going to be treating this here as structure. And given how flat these highs have actually formed, this is actually looking to me like as liquidity to be swept. Okay, so we could actually have this as liquidity for this zone just a little bit higher. So we do have these buy to sell wicks here, which have interacted with demand to the left. I'll make that a refined supply. So with the 4 hour, if this is not going to be our structure point, this is still going to be this will still remain as the 4 hour breakup structure as well. So it's going to be daily plus 4H boss, leaving this up here as daily plus 4H high. Oh, sorry. And then again, just because we haven't yet had a significant pullback, we can't yet identify our 4 hour low either. So ideally, we would set this as our low after we've seen a more significant pullback. If that were to be the case, we could be looking at our potential range to be this one here. So this here, we need to identify what it's actually interacting with on the left. So we can see we've got this, which is a demand zone, had interaction with this supply. Okay. And has actually swept the liquidity below all these lows as well. So it is quite a nice zone, and once we've interacted there, we can see the absorption of orders through the wicks that it's created, and then prices still remained bearish. We do also have the same sort of scenario, just a little bit higher up here. They are a little bit less significant, so let's just zoom in. Take it to the high of this wick. Perfect. Now what's this interacted with? If we look to the left, we have these buy to sell wicks as well. Cool. And we will always be marking out our extreme. It is very, very small in this case, so I'm more than happy to be taking this whole supply range in this scenario, given how small the actual refined POI is. Okay, so So we have this zone above, we have this zone. We've got this liquidity that we've generated, and we know that our higher time frame narrative again for this pair, just like with all the rest, I'm still bearish on this pair as well, given how aggressive this push was, and given that we're bearish on the 4 hour and on the daily, and as well on the weekly. So what we could potentially be seeing, if we do set this to be our 4 hour low, i.e. we'd need to see a significant pullback, we would potentially see price liquidate everything above these highs here. Tapping into this, given how this is priced, if this does become our 4 hour low and this is our 4 hour range, any POI like this that we see in discount could potentially just be a catalyst for a pullback. So we could see price sort of stalling here before potentially tapping into this zone. Okay, given how small it is, whether or not it's going to be strong enough to hold is yet to be seen. Or we could potentially be seeing, let me just make this one here a bit neater, or we could potentially be seeing price pushing all the way up into that supply zone above. So we could liquidate this, react from this guy, react from this POI, but actually wait to see the whole change in order flow and shift in structure when we come up here. So given it is still quite a long way away, we can definitely be playing counter trend longs. There's no liquidity to be targeting in any of these legs except for here. So after we do sweep this, it's going to be really important to see how price reacts, whether it's going to be a sweep and then we're going to fall straight away, or whether we're actually going to absorb all the orders resting here and remain bullish anyway. So let's see how the price develops throughout the week, and I'll be looking forward to seeing how this outlook was when we look back next week. Thanks guys, and I hope you have a great week ahead.